You know, it's funny. We live in a world that's all about celebrating independence. We praise people who forge their own path, who are self-determined. But then, at the same time, if someone is single, it's almost questioned. It's this weird paradox, isn't it? We're told to be strong, to stand on our own 2 feet, and then we get asked why we're, well, standing on our own. Yeah, it's like there is this invisible timeline that's just ticking away in the background of our lives. This idea that by a certain age, you're supposed to have met someone, settled down, started a family, and if you happen to step off that schedule, suddenly you're getting the questions, right? The concerned looks, maybe even a little bit of pity. So that's what we're going to get into today. We're going to decode that whole system. We're digging into research that pulls back the curtain on the hidden biases and structures that are built around the idea of the couple. And by doing that, we'll explore what it truly means to build a life on your own terms, not as a deficit, but as a profound strength. All right, let's dive in. To really get this bias, we first have to see the world for what it often is. A world that's, well, pretty much built for two. Okay, this slide right here, it really nails the central paradox we're talking about. On one hand, our culture's hero is the independent person, the go-getter, the trailblazer. But then you look at who society actually rewards, socially, legally, financially, and it's almost always the committed couple. We praise one, but our systems are set up to benefit the other. And believe it or not, there's actually a name for this bias. It's called singlism. It's basically all the stereotypes and the subtle, sometimes not so subtle, discrimination that single people face. And look, it's not always some big in-your-face thing. More often, it's this quiet, underlying assumption that being part of a couple is just the default setting for being an adult. So where did all this come from? I mean, how did the idea of the couple get so wired into our culture? To get that, we've got to take a quick look back at how partnership itself has changed over time. If you go way back to agrarian societies, marriage was basically a business deal. It was about property, labor, keeping the family line going, not really about love. Then the industrial era hits, and suddenly romantic love is a bigger deal. But here's the twist. The pressure to pair up actually got stronger. And that brings us to today. More of us are living solo than ever before, but we're still running on an operating system that was built for a totally different world. So how does this norm stay so powerful? Well, it's reinforced in a few really interesting ways. First, coupled people become the main social in-group, which automatically makes single people the out-group. This gets amplified by stigma, where being single can be treated like a flaw. And it all adds up to this. The idea of the couple has been built into our society for so long that it feels natural, which by default makes being single seem, well, unnatural. Okay, so this isn't just some academic idea. This bias has real, tangible costs for people who are single.
And this is maybe the most important takeaway. We're not just talking about awkward questions over the holidays. We're talking about a bias that is literally encoded into our institutions, our laws, our workplaces, the very way our society is set up.
I mean, just think about it for a second. Tax codes, they often give a break to married couples. Healthcare is so often tied to a spouse's job. Housing applications can favor families. Even our social lives reinforce it, with +1 invites and workplace policies that are built around a traditional family unit. When you put it all together, it's like there's this unspoken single tax.
And of course, in the age we live in, this pressure gets turned up to 11 online. Your social media feed can be this nonstop highlight reel of engagements, weddings, and anniversaries. And for someone who's single, that constant stream can lead to what researchers call comparison fatigue. It's just this draining feeling of never quite measuring up.
And the emotional cost of being left out, it's not just in your head. It's actually biological. Get this. Neuroscientists have discovered that our brains process social rejection and physical pain in the exact same neural pathways. So yeah, that feeling of being excluded, it literally hurts. It's a throwback to our ancient hardwired need to belong to the group.
But, and this is a big but, this explainer is not just about the problem. It's also about the other side of the coin. So let's shift gears and talk about what happens when we reframe being single, not as something that's missing, but as a source of some pretty incredible strengths.
Yeah, there is a term for this, solo strengths.
See, since they aren't relying on a single partner for everything, single people often build stronger, more diverse networks of friends. They tend to get more involved in their communities. They develop this really powerful emotional independence. And these aren't just ways to cope, they are real, legitimate strengths.
So how do you tap into this power? It really starts with taking back the narrative. First up, redefine what family even means. Expand it to include your chosen kin, those friends who are there for you no matter what. Second, actively challenge biased policies when you see them. And third, and this might be the biggest one, assert that being single is a whole valid lifestyle, not just a temporary waiting room.
And all of this really brings us to the core of it all, doesn't it? This whole conversation really pushes us to ask a much, much bigger question. What does it actually mean to live a complete life? You know, society hands us a script for a good life, and it almost always ends with a partner. But what this research points to is that when you step away from that script, you find something really powerful: freedom. The freedom to become the author of your own story. At the end of the day, here's the fundamental truth. Wholeness isn't something someone else gives you. It's not relational, it's internal. It's something you build within yourself, and your value has absolutely nothing to do with your relationship status.
And that's where we'll leave it, with a question for you to think about. For centuries, we've been handed one main definition of a complete life. But maybe, just maybe, it's time for each of us to define that for ourselves. So what does a complete life really look like to you?